snap. Newsy Pooloozi. Hello, it's hot here in India, which is under the grip of a heat wave. We'll, of course, have a special report on why it's happening and the amusing ways in which people are keeping their cool. And, Mamma Mia, have you made your Mother's Day cards? We'll help you give your mom a treat this year with the sweet story on how it all started. Also, ever heard of a decipus? Neither have we, but that's what we're calling the tin-armed fossil, which was recently found in Montana. And finally, you won't believe what the Scottish are doing with the waste on their most famous drink, glue. I'm Leela Shivshankar Prickett, and I'm joined by the Big Story Explainer and Sound Effects Finder, otherwise known as my mama.
Howdy!
This is Newsy Pooloozi, the news pod for kids.
And adults like it too.
Alrighty then, let's begin with the
big news story
of the week.
Most of you probably know India is a hot country. In May, temperatures can often go over 40 degrees Celsius for weeks.
That's over 104 degrees Fahrenheit.
But this year, the heat has come early.
Unfortunately. Like by 2 months.
Yeah, well, while March didn't hit 40 degrees Celsius or go over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, it came close.
Both March and April were the hottest on record since the records began. Like 122 years ago.
Yeah. Well, for more on this story, we're going to our New Delhi correspondent who... where are you going? Oh, yeah, duh. For more on this story, we're going to our New Delhi correspondent, Leela Shivshankar Prickett.
Ha ha ha! Thanks, Mama. So you might not know this, most of India's workers actually work outside. Yep, and I'm not just talking about the 150 million farmers either. Well, this is a developing country, meaning India's catching up with the US and Europe on building roads, brand new housing complexes, office buildings, and shopping malls. And that means a lot of construction workers too. I spoke with some in my own neighborhood, where old houses are often being torn down to make newer, bigger ones. And they said they work 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Even in this heat, every half hour they're allowed to sit down in the shade for 10 minutes. But still, that's not a lot. You know what they do to try to stay cool? They drench thin towels in water and put it on their head. Actually, I do that too. Well, I wear my hat. And it really does work cooling you off, I can tell you that. And that's not all. There are all those drivers of open-air three-wheeler rickshaws. Remember the story we did a few weeks ago? About the one who planted grass on top of his tuk-tuk in order to stay cool? And did you know that most of the shops in India are still small, little kiosks or huts on the side of the hot road? And many of the bigger concrete shops don't have AC either. Imagine how hard this heat wave must be on all of those workers. Even for those lucky enough to have a cooling system in their homes or offices, often have to deal with power cuts. Why? Because everyone is using all the electricity all at once, and there's not enough to go around. Not surprising that some people are painting their roofs white to deflect the sun. No wonder an expression of joy here in India is called having a AC feeling. Back to you in the studio, Mama.
Thanks, Leela. The only thing I have to add to that very comprehensive report is that most environmental experts agree the heat is coming earlier and expected to last longer because of climate change. The sad thing is, ACs in cars are great inventions that help us be more productive, but are definitely not good for the environment and only add to the problem. Maybe we should get out the white paint, eh?
Now it's the ACE part of our podcast. That stands for Art, Culture and Entertainment.
Darling.
Yes, we're talking culture, folks. One of the biggest occasions on the calendar is upon us.
Biggest? Really?
Oh yeah, here's a clue. Mamma mia, here I go again,
Leela, you know that's a love song, right?
Yeah, I love you.
Oh, thank you, darling. Thank you. Yes, we are talking about
Mother's Day.
and our gift to you, the mothers listening to this podcast and their children who might want to share this with their moms if they're not listening. Here's a little history of this special day. So Mother's Day is celebrated in countries throughout the world. For most, it's the second Sunday in May.
Though other countries, like Britain, mark it at other times.
That is true. Did you know that civilization has been honoring mothers and mother goddesses since ancient times?
I believe it. I mean, in India, they're still celebrating an Indian goddess, Durga, which is a huge festival in the West Bengal, which is their biggest festival of the year.
So true. And then in the Middle Ages, going back to history, there was a custom of children who'd left their families to work in domestic service.
Kids were cleaners and cooks?
Uh-huh. Or they worked in the fields, yes. Well, they were allowed to go to their home or mother church every year 3 weeks before Easter. It became known as Mothering Sunday in Britain.
Ah, that's why they celebrate it at a different time to us. It moves depending on when Easter is.
Right.
Wait, then why don't we celebrate that date in America?
Good question. The Mothering Sunday custom wasn't followed. It was just over 100 years ago in 1907 when a woman named Anna Jarvis from the state of Pennsylvania held a memorial service when her mom died. Well, her mom was well known for organizing women's groups that promoted friendship and health and always wanted a day to celebrate mothers. So her daughter kicked it off, and within 5 years, virtually every state in the U.S. was observing the day.
Aw, that's a nice story. And isn't there something about wearing carnation flowers too?
Yes. Jarvis wore a white carnation as a tribute to her mother, so that's what people wear to honor those who've passed away. And red or pink is worn for the living.
And today, we also celebrate grandmothers and aunts and others who take on mothering roles.
Exactly. But I'm afraid to say there is a sad postscript to this story.
Postscript, as in P.S. You've got more to say.
Yes. Jarvis actually spent the last years of her life trying to abolish, that means get rid of, Mother's Day.
What?
Yeah. She saw how quickly the holiday had become a great opportunity for people to sell things. You know, like gift cards and chocolate.
And flowers and manicures and pedicures.
Oh, really? Is that what you got going on? But yes, the point is, Jarvis felt it was turning way too commercial and forgetting the basic message.
Which is to say, thank you for being my most awesome mama.
That's right, and you're welcome, darling. Now, let go of my neck, please.
Nope.
I love you too.
What's that? I'll tell you what. That's the halftime bell, which means it's time to hear what's making news around the rest of the world. Hold on tight. It's
Around the World in 80 Seconds.
Whoa, hold tight.
A group of civilians who were hiding inside a steel plant in the Ukrainian city of Mariupol made their way to a safer town 200 kilometers away. Hundreds of people, though, still remain trapped at the plant as Russia continues to bombard the eastern port city. Russia is also said to have deployed trained dolphins at a naval base in the Black Sea, according to the U.S. Naval Institute's review of satellite images. It's not the first time that dolphins have been used in military operations. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union and the U.S. trained dolphins to detect enemy divers and mines. another floating city is being planned. We reported in episode 49 about the island nation of the Maldives wanting to build a floating city to survive rising sea levels. Well, now South Korea is planning the same, but it hopes to actually begin construction next year. And 2 women fought in a historic boxing match at the world-famous Madison Square Gardens in New York City for the first time ever. "Look what we've just done," said Katie Taylor, who beat Amanda Serrano on points with a split decision victory. The historic fight smashed expectations and a rematch is being planned.
As ever, thank you so much for that whippity-wappity, zippity-zappity rap of what's making headlines elsewhere in the world, Mama.
As ever, you're most welcome, Leela. And now let's hear It's the call of nature. Get on your safari suit.
Or squeeze into your scuba gear.
And get ready to hop into a Jeep.
Or a submarine.
Submarine.
Because Mother Nature is calling.
Nature.
So you won't believe what they've discovered in the U.S. northwestern state of Montana.
Oh, I know the answer. An octopus fossil.
Not quite.
Oh, yeah! I've missed out 2 extra arms.
As if finding a marine fossil in dry and mountainous Montana weren't weird enough.
This was no octopus, but a decipus. It had 10. I repeat, 10 arms.
Well, we do specialize in wacky world news stories, it's true. Let's cut across to Ezra Graham of the News Nerds podcast, who just happens to live in Montana, a couple 100 miles from where the discovery was made.
Ooh, over to you, Ezra.
When you think of the octopus, you almost always think of 8 legs, right? Well, 328 million years ago, in Montana, you might just have caught a glimpse of a 10-armed octopus roaming the ancient seas. Let me just explain something. Montana, where the fossilized octopus was found, was once an ocean, separating the massive continent of North America into multiple landmasses. You might be thinking, what in the world did a 10-armed octopus even look like? Well, a lot like modern-day squid, kind of like a torpedo. Scientists have determined that this 12-centimeter-long wonder of the ancient seas was the first known organism to develop suckers. That made it easier for the octopus to grasp things. And after all the scientists' hard work identifying their species, they got to name it Calypsimapodi bideni. Any guess as to who that refers to? Yup, US President Joseph Biden. The team commented that they were encouraged by his plans to address climate change and to fund scientific research. In Montana, I'm Ezra Graham, reporting for Newsy Pooloozi.
Ah, Bideni, as in Biden. Got it. Snazzy name. Thanks a lot, Ezra.
I still think Decipus makes more sense.
Me too. Okay, let's see what the Lucky Dip Machine has for our final wacky news story for this week. Step right up.
Have a go at the Lucky Dip Machine.
The Lucky Dip Machine.
What's it going to do today, eh?
An oddball, no doubt.
An oddball, no doubt.
Okay, this is one about an adult drink again. But at least it's not about using elephant poo to make it.
Oh, that was a good story.
Well, this is even better, because it's about what to do with all the leftover stuff that goes into making the drink whiskey. Apparently, for every 1 liter of Scotch whiskey, there's around 2.5 kilograms, that's over 5 pounds, of solid material called draff that gets thrown away.
5 pounds of waste for 1 liter of drink? That's a lot. Then again, think of all the wasted pulp and orange peel that goes into making orange juice. And at least it's biodegradable, right?
Yeah, sure. But wouldn't it be great if you could use it, like, again? Kind of like paper plates are great, but we still try to reuse them for something, right?
Let me guess, they're turning it into compost. They'll let it decompose and then use it as fertilizer.
Even better. Thanks to the clever scientist who started the UK's first biofuel research centre in Scotland's Napier University and now runs Celtic Renewables. We're talking about this.
Oh, biofuel.
Exactly. How does it work? Bacteria breaks down the sugars in the draft, which are then broken down further into something called solvents, like butanol and ethanol, which can be added to petrol or diesel to power a car. Voila!
Fabulous. Probably the only time whiskey and cars can go together.
But you know, I wish we had a reporter in Scotland, because Celtic Renewables is building a biorefinery, which means they'll be able to do this on a large scale.
All right then, folks, put the word out. Newsy Pooloozi needs an eco-warrior correspondent from Scotland to help us report on this story.
And many others.
And it's time to wrap up the podcast with
The top 5 facts heard today.
Fab fact number 1. India is in the midst of a heat wave with unseasonably hot temperatures almost reaching 40 degrees Celsius, which is what in Fahrenheit? 104 degrees. Fab fact number 2.
It's Mother's Day this week, which started in America in 1907 by a woman from Pennsylvania. What was her name? Anna Jarvis.
Fab fact number 3. What was the name of the custom from the Middle Ages where children who'd left their families to work as a domestic helper would visit their mother church 3 weeks before Easter? Mothering Sunday. Fab fact number 4.
A fossil of a 10-armed octopus was discovered in the U.S. state of Montana, even though it's a dry, mountainous place now, because it was once an ocean separating the massive continent of North America into multiple landmasses. How many years ago? 328 million years ago.
Fab fact number 5. Biofuel is being made out of 2.5 kilograms of solid waste that goes into making 1 liter of Scotch whiskey. What's that waste called? Draff. And don't forget, if you want to test yourself later on, then go to the Lucky Dip page of our website, newsypooloozi.com. That's Pooloozi, Pooloozi. And take this quiz online in your own time.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of Newsy Pooloozi. Have you told a friend about us yet? Well, what are you waiting for? Think of the cool conversations about the 10-armed octopuses, crazy gas, heat waves, and Mother's Day that you can have. Alrighty then, see you next week in the happy, splashy, giant Newsy Pooloozi.